Joining us live now, the Shadow Home Affairs Minister Karen Andrews. Karen, good to see you. We'll start off with the G20 because there have been some big breakthroughs regarding China. When do you hope, or when do you expect that, we might be getting ahead of ourselves here, but when would you expect that trade bans could potentially be wound back?
Look, good morning. I think that one of the biggest risks at the moment is that we will get ahead of ourselves in this scenario. Yes, of course, it's good that the Prime Minister was able to meet with Xi Jinping. That is a positive step. But there is still a long way to go. So the trade sanctions that were imposed by China against Australia have caused significant pain, significant damage to our producers here in Australia. There are human rights issues that Australia, I believe, under Prime Minister Albanese, definitely under the coalition, has raised with Xi Jinping. We would be looking to see whether there can be a breakthrough in relation to human rights issues as well as trade sanctions. But I would encourage people to understand that yes, this is a step forward, but it is still a very long way to go. It was only a couple of months ago that China was confirming that the trade sanctions would remain in place, and were arguing that these were in fact valid in terms of the World Trade Organization and what they could do.
There was an interesting comment that's been attributed to Xi Jinping. He's reportedly told the Prime Minister that he hoped Australia would provide a good business environment for Chinese enterprises to invest and operate in Australia. So, of course, they're going to want something in return for winding back sanctions. I suppose that leads to the question, would that have to mean an alteration or some kind of loosening of our tougher foreign investment laws to allow that to happen?
Well, I would be very concerned if any action was taken by the Albanese government to wind back and to weaken some of the protections that have been put in place that are designed clearly to protect Australia. Look, I think in any negotiation, and that's where we are with China, there will always need to be, I guess, a level of openness. Now, if China's now saying that they want effectively a good trading relationship, they want to look at opportunities for businesses here in Australia, of course Australia should listen, but we should also be very conscious of what may well come with that request. I think it's right of the government to continue to pursue a good relationship with China, but Australia's interests have to be first and foremost in any of those discussions.
We've heard from Novak Djokovic overnight, Karen. He says that he's looking forward to returning to Australia this summer. Your government sent him packing this year. Will you now welcome him back?
Look, I'm sure Novak Djokovic is keen to come back to Australia. And look, the current government can make its own decisions in respect of what it's going to do with allowing people to enter this country. The minister had discretion and appears to have used that. What I would say is that there would be other people who are in probably similar circumstances to what Mr. Djokovic found himself. And my view at the time that this was first raised a few weeks ago was that there should not be preferential treatment given to someone just because they have millions of dollars and a high-profile sports person. So I would encourage the government to look at anyone else who may well have been affected in similar circumstances to Mr. Djokovic and be fair in what they may well do in regards to ministerial interventions.
Medibank is not going to pay any ransom. Are you expecting another tranche of data to be released tomorrow as promised by the hackers?
Look, I think from what we've seen so far that we should all be expecting that there will be more data released. If there's not, then that's a good thing, but I think the expectation needs to be that more data will be released. So this is clearly very concerning for those individuals who have had their data stolen and who have a range of various health conditions that they don't want to be made public for very good reasons, particularly their own personal privacy about their health. So I think that we can see a level of escalation from the hackers in terms of their demands, but I think that Medibank has definitely made the right decision to not pay the ransom. And I know that would have been a tough decision, but there's no guarantee when a ransom is paid that the data will be returned.
We've got this ugly stoush that's taking place at the moment, Karen, involving our ports. It's all heading to the Fair Work Commission. Tony Burke referred to it as economic vandalism, but this has been going on for 3 years. and it's involved hundreds of different pieces of strike action in that time. It seems like the Fair Work Commission, this is where this has to be decided. What's your take on what's going on at the moment? Because some have regarded it as the biggest form of strike action since Qantas all those years ago.
And look, and I think that it's a fair signal that the industrial relations system in Australia continues to be difficult in some areas. Ports are one of the areas that have always been affected by significant industrial action over years. I don't know that the legislation that the government is trying to push through at the moment is going to have any impact whatsoever in relation to that. And I am concerned that, in fact, the proposals by the government will make the industrial relations system work much less effectively here in Australia.
Karen Andrews, we will leave it there. Appreciate it, though. We'll talk to you again soon.